Pigweed here. Today we review a stout and discuss this month in woke. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crow Hill. Good evening, Crow Hill.
Good evening, Pigweed.
What is on your mind?
Well, when I came in this evening, I was coming to the front door, and I was looking for a place to hang my keys. You know, like little hooks or something to hang the keys outside.
Yeah, right. I mean, right on the inside when you get inside.
No, outside.
You want me to put? Why would I have a hook to hang car keys on the outside?
Because, like, if somebody was trying to steal my car,
yeah,
I don't want them to break into your house to try to get the keys. They should just be able to pick up the keys right there, and then they can go steal my car.
And then you don't have fear of confrontation.
Right. I don't have to worry about them coming in and like this violent confrontation or anything. Just leave the keys right there outside. And I was actually, maybe you should have a little box for my wallet, too.
Well, that would cut down on crime.
Yeah.
There would be no assaults.
Right.
There would be...
Just people, you know, if somebody wants to steal my car, there's the keys, steal the car, and don't you think that's a good solution?
No, it's a bad joke. I don't know where you made. I don't know how you came up with that.
Well, we'll
idea.
find out about that later on. But right now, it looks like you have something that's not a bad joke.
So
here
a couple of weeks ago on St. Patty's Day, on the very day, I brewed what I thought was an Irish Stout.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Yeah.
Let's see.
All right, so you got all grain. It's barley hulls, and so barley hulls or rice hulls are just there to keep the mash from getting stuck. So what was there in here that was going to make the mash get stuck? Flaked barley, right?
So it's all. So we got roasted barley, black barley, flaked barley.
Wow, a lot of barley.
A lot of barley going on, and
all northern
all roasted
brewer.
and all dark, and all northern brewer had half of the blue onto the. Wind blew it onto the ground. So it's really not an ounce, it's only half ounce.
Okay, the problems you're running
into. And the other
into
thing,
when you're
at the
backyard.
end, my volume was so low that I dumped in a lot of water just to get to my volume up, and kind of suspected that the beer would get thin, but I'm not tasting it being
no, it's not
too
thin.
It's it's a regular low, about 5%.
Yeah, it's sort of a regular low, on the low end of stout. It's roasty, but it's not really roasty.
Right.
And it's strong. It's got the dark malt flavor, but it's not like over the top. It's like a session stout.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is, it's St. Patrick's Day. You're starting at 7 a.m. You know, you don't want it to be too strong. You gotta start with something.
There you go.
Something light and nice.
I like it. Yeah, it's a nice drinkable stout. I mean, it's not so low as Guinness. I mean, a lot of people think of Guinness as a strong beer. It's really
like
not.
4.2 or something.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, it's like a Miller Lite as far as alcohol is concerned. Yeah, no, this is great, and I just did it. I just did the thing that I hate.
Keep it. What?
Say yeah, no. I hate it when people do that. I don't want to ever do that. I just found myself doing that. No, don't do that. It's like not a Boolean game in the life here. Trying to, no, yeah. Well, which one is it? Okay. Well, anyway, excellent stout. I like it very much.
I think so too. So. We have a longtime listener who just felt the need to chime in. And so we've invited him on the show from the left coast. It's John Wayne Jew.
John Wayne Jew. He made an appearance once a little while ago, and he's coming back. So
I'm not sure exactly what's on his mind, but I think he's got a few items, and you don't have to look very far to find recent wokiness. We'll try We'll work through as many as we feel are necessary.
Sounds very good.
All right. Get him on the phone.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So we have John Wayne Jew on the line from the left coast, and he's been listening to our show, and he has some thoughts about this month in woke. So welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, I'm always happy to be here, and thank you for having me and for listening to me. And I know the rest of your audience, and as the country and the world devolves into, I don't even have a word. It's going downhill
insanity.
So fast. Insanity, or what religious people may think is the coming end. It's down is up and up is down, and we continue to find that the disparity is even greater. And when I have a story for you that to me was beyond belief even for Canadians.
Okay. All right. Let's start with that.
Okay, I mean, we all know Canadians are very patient and very polite,
Yes.
but I believe this goes a little bit too far because in Toronto,
Yeah.
the police, the number of violent crimes surrounding car theft is drastically up.
Okay.
So the police have told the people who live in Toronto to leave their car keys outside their front door so that the police can, I mean, so that the bad guys can steal their car. Maybe it's the police, but I think it's the bad guys. I tend to think that the Canadian police are polite too. But is this taking politeness to a new?
Yes, I think kindness towards our criminals is probably going a little too far.
So that's actually, before you came on the show, we were joking about, I was asking Pigweed if I should just hang my keys, doesn't he have a hook outside the front door where I could hang my keys before I come in? And I thought, well, maybe I should just leave my wallet out there too, put a little box, put my wallet.
Well, I mean, they might need gas.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, to stop it, we have In-N-Out here in this side of the world, but to stop in fast food and get something during their getaway, I think we need to support the criminals wherever they come from.
It would cut down on reported crime.
Yes.
In fact, that's just a way to end crime. Is you just,
legalize everything.
Yes, you just legalize everything, and you say, well, what do you mean? Your car was stolen. Yes, we solved crime. You didn't get beat up. Your car was stolen. Hey, it's only property, right? So
I know.
Well, I think this is what it is because I'm wondering if the Toronto police have figured out how to improve their stats. Because if you leave somebody your car keys,
right,
is the car borrowed or stolen?
Right. So here's a quote from the article that you sent me. To prevent the possibility of being attacked in your home, leave your fobs at the front door because they are breaking into your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else. Like, first of all, that's a lie that they don't want anything else. But second of all, I mean, the whole concept is just stupid. Okay, just don't lock your door. Leave your bank numbers sitting out on the front porch. It's crazy.
All right.
Well, I mean, there's two things. There's another thing at play. It's Canada. They've taken all the guns away from the good guys.
Right.
So you can't sit in your door
yourself.
and wait for them to come in, right?
Yeah.
And then take care of them, so to speak. You have to mollycoddle them, and it's beyond belief.
Yeah. Canada's terrible.
It's so many things are. I mean, many years ago when my wife and I, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we would have breakfast and we would read nothing more wild than the Wall Street Journal at breakfast.
Whoa, easy, Gary.
I mean, we were getting wild with that Wall Street Journal. And we would comment on stories and say, this is unbelievable. And we were talking about what you have now done called woke, because that was before we labeled it woke.
Pre-woke.
And we were saying, we should start a newsletter with unbelievable stories.
That's right.
But look how it's progressed into this wokeness, and there's so much other stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking for a glimmer of hope amongst the woke. Is it? I would say this: your regular guy on the street recognizes that this is all nuts, but it's our betters, it's the people who are in charge of us, who have lost their minds, and somehow we haven't figured out a way to push back. I'm hoping otherwise my fellow man that I'm giving them too much credit, and they're as crazy as our leaders are, but I don't think that's the case. It just seems like I said it right before Trudeau was reelected. I'm like, all right, this whole truckers his whole COVID.
Exactly.
I said, all right, this guy can't possibly survive. Survive another election.
Yeah.
Boop. Sure
Yeah,
did.
he
So
did.
I don't know.
Yeah. So there's something deeply wrong. I've told Pigweed from time to time that things are so crazy wrong it makes me believe in the devil. It's just it's almost
well.
just too much.
There must be a
you guys, I do live on the West Coast, and the particular part of the West Coast I live on is very evangelical laden.
Right.
Not saying it's bad. I'm just saying this is kind of my area.
Yeah.
And for a John Wayne Jew, it's very interesting. I have more in common with the evangelical community than I do with my own liberal community, who I don't have much good to say about. My conservative community is pretty good.
What is
Well, I mean, if you think about it, when you think about the Jewish community, people think, everybody votes liberal. It's not the case.
Right.
It's way not the case. And the more religious of us are very conservative. But what people see, because the conservative Jews or the religious Jews or some version of religious Jews, they're quiet. We don't really want a lot of attention. And so what happens in America is we see people like Schumer and Nadler and Blinken and Mayorkas and, Schiff. Yeah. And I'd like to, bring AOC in the fold, but I think she's not one of ours. And I think she went to Catholic school, I think. Yeah. But it's a shocking thing. But there is hope.
Well, let's get some more items here.
Let's move on to the next item and see what we got here. What else have you got for us?
Well, how about they don't want to rename the bridge in Baltimore that collapsed?
Francis Scott Key Bridge. They don't want to call it the Key Bridge because what's the problem here?
Because it would be inappropriate because he owned. Apparently, they say he owned slaves. Now, I don't know whether or not that's true.
Yeah, I looked it up. I think he probably did. But I mean, the big question is who didn't own slaves?
Yeah, I mean, a very small percentage owned slaves, but not because they were morally opposed to it. I mean, it was what you were swimming in. That's just the world that you were in. And so, yes, you're like, how dare an 18th century man think and behave like an 18th century man? Why wasn't he fully up to date on all of the diversity and equity quotients of today?
Exactly.
Yeah, and what about, Muhammad owned slaves. He captured people, sold slaves, bought slaves. Are they going to start saying that you can't have anything about Muhammad?
Watch your mouth.
No, that's going to be a fatwa against me now. It's 2 weeks in a row.
I mean, it's
so who are they thinking of? Elijah Cummings? Is that what they were saying?
No. It's a black man who was the Congressman Perrin J. Mitchell, the first black man from Maryland elected to the U.S. House of Representatives.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure he's a fine man. I'm sure he deserves a statue.
Yeah. But we can't go around...
A statue or a statute. But
we can't go around reinterpreting and changing our history just because it's history. Because nobody in the 18th, 17th, 16th, 15th, none of those centuries is going to live up to modern standards.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, the next time you build a bridge in wherever his district was,
name it after him.
Name it after him.
That's right.
So what you said about canceling our history is really deep, because if they take history away from us, if as Americans, and I could talk about this all over the world, but if they take our history away, whoever they are, they who are them,
communists,
and we don't have George Washington because he owned slaves,
right?
And we don't have Thomas Jefferson because he owned slaves,
right?
And we don't have Benjamin Franklin. I don't know. He was out playing with kites, so or maybe it's because he had gout. Who knows? But when they start taking away all of those values that we had growing up, I mean, I remember we had an American flag in our classrooms. We said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. We did things that brought us together as a community. And in the late 60s and early 70s, many of us, I'm probably older than you guys, but many of us marched for civil rights, for equality, and to make sure that nobody was excluded on the basis of race or religion or
Not
whatever.
good enough.
It's not good enough.
Not
Yeah,
good enough.
yeah, because they were wearing the wrong
because
shoes.
now you have to do it you can't just ask for things to get better. You have to hate everybody before you
Yeah.
who created whatever inequality you presume to exist. It's not enough to have a positive look towards the future. You have to have a hateful look backwards.
And here's the
Good
thing.
job.
Here's the thing. I've tried to ask some of my woke friends. I said, look, imagine that 50 years from now, there's been a complete change in the attitude towards eating meat, so that everybody thinks that eating meat is immoral.
Yeah.
And you have to be a vegetarian. If you're not a vegetarian, then you're a horrible person. Okay. Yeah. So does that mean everybody up to today is canceled?
Yes.
Like we can't have. So and if this process continues,
Yes.
you know,
because
okay,
you cause global warming by eating meat or something.
right, and then 50 years after that, it's going to be some other thing.
Yeah.
So what you end up doing is just continually erasing the past based on whatever the moral foibles are of the present. And that's just an insane way of looking at it.
Except unless you're looking at it through the lens of a Marxist playbook,
Yes.
then it actually makes perfect sense.
Yes.
So that's
which is exactly what's going on, and I think, you know, we're seeing things that are so un-American.
Yeah.
And you know, I if I look out my window, I can't because I have my shades down so that I can talk to you guys. But if I look out my window, I am likely to see cows here at the ranch that I live on
Nice.
the left coast.
But can you see Russia?
And so I can tell you, you know, as a matter of fact, that cows can occasionally become flatulent.
How dare they?
And in California, they literally passed a law about cows' flatulence because of global warming.
Of course they did.
Yeah. So why don't
They
we?
did.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing I don't understand about this. It's like whenever there's some problem, like let's say cows' flatulence is a problem, rather than like coming up with a solution like giving them all Beano. How about that?
Yeah.
Instead,
I'm concerned. I just want to be on record here. I'm concerned that the steers are self-identifying as cows.
that would be a problem. Yeah, that could cause. All right, so let's move on to another one. Pick another topic from your.
Here's
your
another
list.
one.
All right.
Here's another one. This one. I would like to go to Congress and testify on this bill.
Okay.
A wonderful congressman lady, a Democrat, of course, from Texas, Congressman Jasmine Crockett.
Right.
She suggests exempting blacks from taxes as a methodology for reparations.
Okay.
Now, I personally would like to go to that hearing,
Yeah.
if it's ever going to get a hearing. I'm not going to, but I would like to. And I would like to encourage the members of the committee to vote for this bill. We should, in my opinion, exempt blacks from taxes. And the reason is because every thoughtful American would immediately self-identify as black, and it would solve a lot of problems.
And why couldn't you?
If we were all black, then we couldn't have any of these racial disparities in the country anymore.
Well, there's another
we
point.
all
You
did
know, and-
actually come from Africa, right?
Well, there's actually some debate about that these days. But
Well,
yeah, I mean,
some of us come from the Middle East, but yes.
No, Pigweed's talking about way long ago.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
development of Homo sapiens out of Africa. But so yeah, if blacks were exempted from taxes, then all you have to do is self-identify as black. Rachel Dolezal tried that after all, right?
Yeah, it didn't really work.
She's already there. I mean, you know, it's a pretty cool thing.
I heard
And
I heard that she recognized that. that I heard the comment was, well, since there's so many black people who don't pay taxes, then she just wants refunds without
Oh my God.
without paying the taxes.
I'm way not going there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is,
I'm too woke to go there.
a lot of these proposals that people come forward with, do they even realize that they're just flatly against the law? You can't have a law like that. You're not allowed to discriminate based on race. So having a law that would say don't tax black people would be flatly illegal.
Yeah. Well, then how is DEI
well,
legal?
Yeah, it's not.
All right. Yes. So DEI is just warmed over affirmative action. So affirmative action ran out of steam after about 30 years, which is what the original intention was. It's like, all right, this isn't a permanent state. It's probably not legal, but we're going to go ahead and do this for a while, and then at some point, people are going to realize, hey, you can't do that anymore. And right about the time when that happened, and universities, people were suing their way to get rid of affirmative action, lo and behold, we get DEI, which is the same thing on steroids.
Yes.
Well, you make a very good point, because here in California, there was a lawsuit because the University of California at Berkeley allegedly was allowing in too many Oriental people, right? And so they said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to have quotas, and there was a lawsuit, and no more quotas.
Right.
Now, interns, it has only 5 out of 50.
50.
Only 50 people coming in. Only 5 of them are white males.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, because what's the percentage of whites in the country, or white males in the country? So whites are something like 60%, I think. Okay. So white males have to be at least 30%. So if you're going to do this
but really, if you would look at the number of white males in the media / journalism graduates, because we're not talking about just random people, which is always a mistake when you take this there are 13% of blacks. How come 13% of Google programmers?
Right.
Well, because there aren't 13% that are high-level graduates of that degree. You can't just look at the entire population of the country.
You're imposing a level of
sanity. They will be high-level graduates of that degree. And by the way, I have spoken with 2 college professors in the last 7 days. One of them got fed up and retired.
Mm-hmm. So Pigweed has a DEI story here to follow up on what you're asking.
Let's stick with DEI. I got 2 of them. One of them is that the State Department mandates. This is basically a loyalty test. That if you expect to be promoted within the State Department, I'm not talking about some left-wing university. You have to express your fealty to the commitment of DEI. If you want to be considered, well, it says if you're not a minority or a female, in part of your promotion and you have to demonstrate what you have done.
Oh yeah. I've seen that sort of thing. It's like, how are you committed to fighting this, that, and the other? Yes. Right.
That's the State Department. Now, Texas University has actually cleared out its DEI. Good for you.
Yeah.
The University of Texas at Austin is removing its diversity and equity and inclusion office. And so the reaction is the problem. It's really the cruelty is stunning. Because these are employees whose work it is to help students succeed.
No, it's not.
Your job must have been to get students admitted to the university that they weren't qualified for.
Yeah.
Because if they were qualified, they wouldn't need your help.
Yes.
So by definition, your job is to bring in students that are unqualified. And yes, and you know who's going to suffer? Yes, those students will. But not really, because they're just going to go to the college that suits their ability.
Yeah, that's an argument that Thomas Sowell makes, is that the problem with a lot of this affirmative action stuff is you have somebody who would do very well in a tier 2 school.
Yeah.
They're very smart, and in the tier 2 school they would excel, and they would get great grades, and they would get a great education.
Right, but Princeton is so desperate to get their numbers up.
Yes, that they move them now into a tier 1 school where they don't do as well. So basically, you're setting them up for failure because you're putting them in a situation that they're really not qualified for, all in the name of this alleged compassion that you think.
And you might have just sapped their desire for higher education, because now you just failed out of a school where you would have had great success and maybe moved on to further degrees at a school that's more compatible to your ability.
Yeah. It's astonishing how
it's the problem is they don't fail them.
Yeah.
And as the professor explained to me today, if he gives anybody less than an A, the entire school will stop taking his class.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I understand that they're right. And this makes sense. Before it had to be word of mouth, but I'm sure now that there are just websites going, all right, if you want an easy A in first year English, take this professor, don't take that professor. I'm sure there's a worksheet out there for every school about how to skate through college, learning the least. All right, but however, with all the DEI stories, I'm trying to look for some glimmers of hope here.
Yeah, okay. Actually,
hold on. This one, but the one I read about the Texas University taking the heat for it. Well, at least they did it. At least they got rid of they did clean house, just like the Florida
that happened
University
in Florida.
System.
Yeah.
So all right. So can we just get a couple of positives?
Yeah. So there is a little bit of evidence that some companies are pulling back on DEI. So I've got this chart here. Sorry, John Wayne Jew, you can't see it, but it shows mentions of DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion in quarterly earnings calls, and it shows from 2020 to 2014, and you see this enormous increase from 2020 to 2021. Just goes way up high, and then it drops down, kind of bounces around a little bit, but now it's come way back down. And this is, we keep hearing these stories that, Google and Meta and other companies are closing DEI offices, that they're backing away from it, and I would like to believe that it's true. Yeah. But on the other hand, I have this sneaking suspicion that we're being conned.
Maybe.
It's like what frequently happens is conservatives want something, and we're losing the war, but we're like, oh, look at this little thing that happened in this little county in Florida. Oh, look at
that
this
little battle.
Yeah. So we win these little battles, and we think, oh, isn't that wonderful?
But tide's turning.
We're losing the war, but we're just like winning these tiny little pinprick battles here, there, and the other place.
ESG is the other thing. I'm hoping that we've hit. Actually, in the end, we'll talk about peak DEI, peak ESG, and peak woke. And so I'm always looking for evidence that any of these three things are waning. And I get a few, just like you say, I get a few glimmers and a few high fives, and then you're sadly disappointed.
Yes, but there is state legislation.
I'm not seeing the waning, but you do read. I read an article about a study of public companies that the public companies that are focused on ESG do not do as well as those that aren't.
Of course they don't. Of course they don't, because they're worried more about something other than the business that they're in.
Well, this is let me just broadly speaking.
And they're not hiring. There's such a difference between equity and equality. I am totally about equality. I marched in the 60s. We all did that stuff. And, everybody has an opportunity. And, we all have to realize some people are disadvantaged economically, or they don't have two parents at home, or whatever it is, and they don't do as well in school, so they don't get the opportunity to go to Harvard. But
your story there, John Wayne Jew, reminds me of a story. The University of San Diego retracts illegal job posting following an inquiry. So what happened was this woman posted this job offer and said it was only available for women. That only women could apply for this female postdoctorate fellow thing. And then a whistleblower, reported it and exposed it and said, yeah, look, this is flatly illegal. You can't do that. And what she said was, I'm retracting the advertisement. I received funding from this organization to supplement salary for postdoc with the requirement that they be a woman. But my position is open to everyone. My apologies. So she lied. I mean, she's getting paid to hire a woman. So she puts out an illegal advertisement saying, I'm only going to hire a woman. And then when she gets called on it, she comes up with this nonsense explanation.
But couldn't you, couldn't you have a private, let's just say a privately funded scholarship?
Right.
I'm paying for it.
Right.
And I only want it to go to students of whatever. Mm-hmm. Right? You had to have grown up, you had to be a graduate of Baltimore City College, and you had to be a Lithuanian descendant.
Right. Apparently that's not allowed. I guess that's not allowed because you're not allowed to discriminate based on race, religion, sex, or national origin.
Funding, though. You think? Yeah. I mean, I'm personally paying for it. Can I pay for have any kind of criteria I want?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. We need a lawyer to answer that for us. But I don't.
Well,
think
the government says that you can't hire illegal aliens. You have to fill out this form. That's their proof of a person's proof of either citizenship or that they have a green card or I think it's called an H-1B or one of the visas that permit them to work.
Yeah.
And so the federal government is suing Tesla because they're not hiring non-citizens. And by the way, or is it SpaceX? I can't remember which one.
No, it's Tesla. You're right, and it doesn't. It so totally doesn't make sense. I'm like, what are you talking about? You should be thrown in jail for hiring them. I thought that was the whole E-Verify thing, that you could only hire citizens. Well, Joe Biden said the next Supreme Court judge should be an illegal alien. So there you go.
Did he really?
Yeah. I think he meant an immigrant, but
in California, we have at least 2 illegal alien members of the bar who are practicing attorneys.
Oh my gosh.
I am not kidding you. And the state bar got sued because they weren't going to admit this guy that went all the way through law school and took the bar and passed the bar, and they went, oh, wait, you're illegal. He sued them. In California, matters involving the state bar go to the Supreme Court because, they're special. And the Supreme Court said, no, we can't discriminate against illegal aliens. He's in the bar, and he is in the bar and practicing. And I read a second one and it seems to me.
I take back all my
optimism. I mean, I don't know how, as a judge, as an officer of the court, you can permit such a guy to come into your courtroom without having him arrested.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't have. If you don't have a work permit,
I know. Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't even be cutting grass without a work permit,
right.
and you could practice law.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. So, so we need to start wrapping this up. So let's think about a couple things. One, are there signs of hope? One, and two, what can we do to fight against this kind of nonsense? What do you think, John Wayne Jew? What are there? Do you believe there are signs of hope that this nonsense is turning and going the other direction?
Yes and no. Yes, because we see little victories. Mm-hmm. No, because the tide is against American values.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we will see a continual degradation in the quality of everything. But we're seeing this, we hear about it in New York because all the media headquarters are there, but we see it in San Francisco, we see it in LA, we see it in every big city, Chicago, where they're just not prosecuting bad people, really bad people, bad people who kill people and hurt people.
Right.
So I keep thinking that
people are going.
I don't think there's hope. I think we're going to lose the country.
Yeah, but you don't think that people are just going to go? I've had it. I can't take it anymore.
And then what?
Not enough people. I think the problem is there aren't enough people who say, "I've had it. I'm not going to take it anymore." I mean,
But what
there are a
happens
lot of
when
people.
you do that?
Well, hopefully that you would get rid of those kind of DAs and those terrible practices that bring crime down and that deteriorate your cities. And you're like, I want the city I used to live in. I'm a liberal. I'm a California liberal, but I can't live in a city like this anymore. And so we're going to change policies, but it doesn't seem to happen.
I wonder sometimes if the wokeness has penetrated so deeply into so many of the functional organs of government, like you said about the State Department there before,
Yeah,
or like into city councils, and it's so pervasive. The roots are so deep that it might be. I don't know if it's possible to pull it out. I don't know. I'd like to believe so, but I don't really know.
No, they've got the schools.
yeah.
They've got the media. And I mean, look what they're teaching in the lower grades. They're teaching things that I don't even want to talk about in public. What I said was that what we are witness to is the 3 generations of, no pun intended, progressively more progressive
Right.
teachers who are creating progressively more. I hate to use the word progressive. I'd rather say commie.
Right.
Progressively more leftist graduates. And those graduates now they are permeating the media, they are permeating education, they are permeating government.
The boardroom.
And they're the boardroom, and they're hiring their own.
Feminist women.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so I wonder, okay, here are the 2 choices. You got 2 choices. You move somewhere. I don't know where in the world you move. You go someplace else. Or, I don't know. What's the other choice? Revolution? Revival?
Can you imagine? I remember thinking not too long ago, look, let's just go someplace far away, right to almost to the edge of the Arctic. We'll go to Scotland. How awful is Scotland?
Scotland
now?
is worse. They have this law that you can't say anything about anybody or they put you in jail.
There was
hurting somebody's feelings has become a crime.
There was a brilliant YouTube video where there's this Scottish police officer apologizing for everything. He's just going on and on and on apologizing, and every time he tries to apologize, he says something else that causes him to apologize to somebody else. It was really
till he ends up apologizing to himself.
Yes,
calling himself a bald-headed, a bald-headed liar or something. He's like, and I apologize to all bald men.
So exactly. So. This is not a very positive episode. Is there anything we can do? We got to wrap this up. Is there anything we can say to give people hope, or are we just basically saying, sorry, life is going to be awful?
No, you just have to keep looking at the little battles and pretending that they're part of the larger war.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Keep your eyes over here.
Yes, that's all I got.
Is that all it is, John Wayne Jude? We don't have anything else to offer anybody.
I just don't see. I don't see hope. I have hope for humanity in the long run. I think, not to be too funny, but in a sense, and remember, I'm really a religious person, but in a sense, the prophet Gene Roddenberry got it right. He we're going to have a nuclear war. Look, we're on the brink of one right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a nuclear war, and humanity's going to be in a mess. And, out of those ashes will rise a global government.
Yeah.
All those things that people are talking about. And
it is possible. It is possible to be positive about the long term and negative about the short term. It is possible it's possible to think that the trajectory is eventually going to turn in the right direction, but we might have some really bad times between now and then.
Before the collapse of the West, will we have to rebuild the West out of its ashes, or will it be rescued? I mean, and how?
Yeah. Vulcans.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah.
You really want an answer? I'll give you one.
All right, let's hear it.
I've watched very carefully what is going on in Europe and what is going on in Scandinavia, in Sweden, where 10 years ago, they had 431 rapes in a year. They now have 22,000.
Oh my gosh.
And you see in Europe, really, we talk about an invasion in America. Europe is little. They've had a bigger invasion, and Europe, the Western culture is going to be gone from Europe in 10 or 15, maybe 20 years. Maybe it'll take that long.
Yeah, but so you got right. So, but what are you going to? So this is the result of tolerance, liberalism, and multiculturalism.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to stop that, you have to shut those three things down. And
yes, sir.
How
do you do that?
How do you do that without some sort of racially minded fascistic response?
Yeah, I've often thought that liberalism, the extremes of liberalism, actually cause the extremes of tyranny and fascism and that kind of stuff, because they make things so ungovernable and so impossible that some sort of a dictator has to come in and clean things up. There's no other option.
Okay, well, I tried to get you guys to give me a positive outlook.
And we don't have it. So.
And it didn't work so good. Well, John Wade, thank you for coming on. And, we'll make a date for next month and do another week.
Another month in woke.
Anytime. I'm always delighted to join Pigweed and Pigweed. I'm trying to get my mouth working.
Awesome.
And Crow Hill. And it's too many coffees. That's right. And thank you for having me. And thank you for doing your show, most of all. I think it's important. And people, we need to promote it a little more. More people need to hear this.
Get the word out. All right. So cheers.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.